right here to the coast is about 9 miles. This was all marsh. All marsh. That marsh went all the way up to about 5 miles above Highway 90, which is about 15 miles that way. And it stretched this whole basin of East Bay Bayou, Oyster Bayou, and Onion Bayou. All these bayous, it was a giant marsh, Willow Slough Marsh. Came up through here. The only people that were in here then, let's go back a little further. The only people that used that marsh were the Indians that lived here. Anahuac was mainly. They'd go in the bayous and just made a living off the land. And the trappers came in next, trappers and hunters. They trapped this thing for muskrat from Highway 90 all the way to the coast. So there weren't any roads or anything in here. It was just a big old marsh. And being marsh, the water never gets out of it. You know, it also protects from the storms coming in. The storms would come in. All this established vegetation would buffer the effect of that, and then the storms would go out, and all the sediment that they would stir up would be left right here in this marsh. So it was constantly kind of building up just a little bit. It might lose a little bit in the storm or a big rain, but then it would deposit it right back in there. And all of the vegetation that we manage for is still here. It's the same thing that they've been eating for eons, for tens of thousands of years, however long ducks and geese have been. They eat the same thing here now, same thing. There are a few invasives and non-native species that are here that will propagate, but for the most part, they've always been here, and that's what we manage for, is native vegetation. Rice is real starchy. It doesn't have a whole lot of food value. When they're here and established, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But one of the things that was discovered when they were pressing for the banning of lead shot in waterfowl areas, one of the things they found out is that lead becomes absorbable in a duck's body when it turns into a lead salt. And for it to do that quickly, it takes a starchy diet. If the bird is on a natural seed or vegetation diet, it tends not to be affected near as much. So in an area like this, these birds would not be affected by lead poisoning like they would in a field like that. Of course, they got wings, so they're going to get in all these fields. But back when it was all native, of course, there wasn't any lead back then either. So that's one of the things that we created is a not so healthy diet, for the birds. Of course, late in the season, or even rice is only good for teal season, and maybe the first couple of 3 weeks, ducks are going to eat it out if they've got a choice, and they're going to go to the aquatics and the seed plants, and then later on into the late season they'll be in the aquatics just like they are right now. So that's all there is for them right now. The natural vegetation is so much more nutritious than the starchy vegetation that you get. Now, not the vegetation, but the seeds from commercially produced grain. Milo, corn, rice, wheat, all of those are very starchy. I won't go into why they're not as healthy, but it was proven that on a starchy diet, ducks and geese are much more susceptible to lead poisoning. Where if they're on a native seed and vegetation diet, they're not nearly as likely to get lead poisoning from ingested shot. So that's got to tell you something right there. The ducks and geese always came down here for that natural vegetation, the natural seeds, but it's just like I guess it's like us. You know, we'd be a lot better off if we'd eat spinach and greens and vegetables. But man, how you gonna pass up that ice cream? It's just tough. And I think they've taken up some bad habits, and that's probably weakened the waterfowl to some degree. Eating rice and if it's probably better now because the rice, there's just not that much rice left in the field, and they'll deplete that rice pretty quick, and then they have to get back and work on the invertebrates and whatever's left in those fields. But yeah, I think as a waterfowl hunter, if you don't base your whole management plan around native plants, it's not going to work out for you. Since I was, even back when the rice was you know, they'd make 2 or 3 cuts a year, and there was rice everywhere in those fields. Teal season was always great. That's all those blue wings want. They're going to get that rice, they're going to fill up a little bit, and then they're going to get the heck out of here. But it was good. Then the first couple of weeks of duck season, it was good. But those rice fields will start falling off after the first 2 weeks of regular season. You see those birds going more to the aquatics that are already there, and aquatics are typically kind of late coming. I think the second 2 weeks and maybe the first 2 weeks of regular season is when they'll go to the seeds from native vegetation, the millets, panicum, spraggletop, all of those native seed producing plants. After that, if you don't have aquatics, you are out of business if you don't have aquatics. So you've got, in all of those, every single one of those, you can't buy the seeds for most of that stuff because nobody wants it. It'll grow where rice will grow. It competes with commercial crops. So most of these landowners around here try to void their property. If they're in the cattle business, they don't mind it. But if they're in the rice business, they don't want anything out there but dirt. They just want dirt. So, and we're having to depend on rice farmers for 2 or 3 weeks, providing us the type of food that's usable for the waterfowl. That's not long enough. It's a 10-week season.